Hello everyone, Isha here. What an incredible Formula One weekend so far. Not only was this a sprint weekend, which always adds some more exciting fun, but we also saw Max Verstappen being crowned the world champion of the 2023 season. Now, this was his third time in a row, which ties him with Sebastien Vettel for 3 consecutive world championships. Now, even if you're not a Red Bull or Max Verstappen fan, you've got to give it to him. He has had an extremely dominant, amazing season so far, broken and rewritten many records, and he has totally earned this title. Now, so I'll just recap the sprint and the quali sessions and my thoughts on it. So let's start with the sprint. So we had the sprint shootout earlier today, where we saw Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, the 2 McLarens, take first and second position with Max Verstappen in third. Now, all Max had to do to win the championship today in the sprint was to score 6th or higher on the leaderboard, which he did because at the sprint race, he finished in 2nd place. But that begs the question, who finished first? And that goes to McLaren's rookie, Oscar Piastri. Now, this season has been an extreme turnaround for McLaren, as well as for their drivers, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Oscar has certainly proved his talent as a Formula One driver with incredible skill, like we saw today in the sprint shootout earlier in the day, as well as in the sprint race itself. Now, his teammate Lando Norris did seem upset earlier after the sprint shootout and yesterday in the quali session as well, but the 2 McLarens have definitely got something to celebrate after Oscar won his first sprint race. Now, if we go back to the quali session yesterday, we saw a lot of the drivers struggling with tire issues, and that we saw again in the sprint shootout, and I'm sure we will also see tomorrow during the actual race. Drivers have had some serious issues with the tires. We've seen many drivers go over the boundaries that are set. We've seen them hit the curbs as well, and the reason for this is that the tires are experiencing more degradation than usual, and I think part of it is also the weather in Qatar. As we've seen, it's hot and humid there, and the tire degradation is causing issues for the drivers. The reason why they're slipping is because they're losing their grip on the track. And so Pirelli has come out and made a statement for this, and I believe the FIA has said that now they will be making some changes to the race tomorrow. Today we saw one of the changes implemented, which was a 10-minute familiarization session for the drivers before the sprint race. And tomorrow, it said that the drivers will be making 3 pit stops for the race, which is really surprising to see, but we do not know yet how those changes are going to be implemented. As of now, I don't have any news on whether there will be safety cars deployed or if there's going to be virtual safety cars or if there's just going to be regulations set. I personally think that setting regulations is the best and easiest way to go about doing this, because if you put out safety cars, even if it's virtual or physical, it's going to cause other issues. And one of the biggest issues that the drivers are going to face with all of these pit stops is their strategies and overtaking other drivers. I think that tomorrow we're not going to see too many spot changes, because if the drivers have to take a pit stop 3 times in the race, that's going to cause a lot of issues coming into the pit lane as well as exiting the pit lane. It's going to change up a lot of their strategies, and I think it adds a very high degree of uncertainty to the race as well. Now, we know that Max Verstappen is going to be starting at the front of the pack. He's going to be leading. In 2nd place, we've got second and third place, we've got the 2 Mercedes. And then after them, we've got Fernando Alonso in 4th. 5th place is Charles Leclerc. And then down we go. Now, looking at the 2 McLarens, the McLarens are actually, let me just pull up the scores real quick. So the 2 McLarens, Oscar Piastri is going to be in 6th place starting tomorrow. I believe he was originally supposed to be in 4th, but then as we saw in the interview, if you guys saw it, he was handed penalties and was dropped down to 6th place. His partner, teammate Lando Norris, on the other hand, is going to be starting in 10th, which is not a good space for him, as both of the McLarens have been doing a really good job, especially Lando Norris in the past few races. Now, Lando Norris, how far ahead can he get? I don't think he's going to get much higher than 7th place, considering with how many pit stops they have to make tomorrow. I think the only drivers he's going to be able to really overtake are going to be Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly, and Bottas as well. But I just think that's going to be much harder to get above P7, not because, you know, he's not going to be able to do it, but because there's going to be so much unpredictability in the race. The strategies are going to be all over the place. There's going to be pit stops, so many pit stops. It's just going to be a really complicated race. This is what I'm thinking tomorrow's going to look like. But overall, you know, Oscar's going to be in 6th, Lando's going to be in 10th. I think that McLaren is, I mean, so far this weekend, they've had a good job so far. Like, we saw Oscar Piastri with the sprint and the sprint shootout. Lando's had a bit of a tougher time, but I think that this weekend for McLaren has not been as amazing or as great as the past 2 race weekends were, where we saw in Japan and in Singapore as well. So, anyways, tomorrow's race, you know, there's going to be a lot to look out for. We've got the 2 Mercedes in 2nd and 3rd place as well. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see if they're able to maintain those spots, which I think that they've got a good chance, unless Fernando Alonso really steps it up and gets it ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who's going to be in 3rd. And then obviously after Fernando Alonso, we've got Charles Leclerc in 5th place. His teammate Carlos Sainz is going to be starting in 12th, which is a really big setback for him, as he was really outperforming Charles Leclerc in the past 2 race weekends as well, being the winner of the Singapore Grand Prix. So it's definitely not going to be easy for him to come up from P12 as well. And behind him, he's going to have Sergio Perez. Now, Max Verstappen, his teammates in 1st, but Sergio Perez is in 13th place. And I personally think that this could make things really hard for Sergio Perez looking at the next season, because the past 2 races, I believe he DNF'd, and then, or I know he at least DNF'd in Japan. I don't remember what happened in Singapore, but that was also not a good race for him. And, oh, Singapore is when he DNF'd. Yes, I just remembered, because that was the really, really bad Red Bull weekend for them. But overall, I think there's going to be a lot for us to watch out for. There's going to be definitely some entertainment and unpredictability with the pit stops and the way the FIA decides to go about setting those regulations. And, you know, as far as who's going to be in 1st place, that's obviously going to be Max Verstappen, but who's going to be on the rest of the podium, 2nd and 3rd place, I think we've got a good shot of seeing a double Mercedes podium. But, you know, they've got Fernando Alonso and Charles Leclerc right behind them, so that's also going to be interesting to see. But overall, I think we're set for a really interesting race tomorrow, and I hope everything goes well, and that it's just a safe and good race, you know, because I feel like with the pit stops and all of the regulations that are supposed to go out, it could be tricky, because the tires, we've seen them lose a lot of their grip once they get to around 20 laps or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and definitely stay tuned. I will be posting my post-race thoughts tomorrow after the race, and until then, have a good day.